Hey everyone! Today, the topic we're going to discuss is privacy and de identification. As health data scientists, our biggest challenge is not algorithms, it's using data without exposing people. So, if I start telling you about the core dilemma of this topic, that would be that data is powerful. And as we know, if something powerful is left unleashed or not taken care of properly, it becomes dangerous, right? Let's move on to the first thing we're going to discuss. That is the central conflict. What is the utility of data? Health data is useless if it's kept in a safe, right? So why do we need it? What is the utility of it? Its utility is to discover the patterns, to train the AI models, and to improve the patient outcomes. We want the statistical hum of the room, not individual whispers, right? And obviously, everything comes with a risk if it's giving you some benefits. So let's talk about the risks. Health data can ruin lives if exposed. Okay, so we can face risks as re-identification, loss of public trust, and legal penalties like HIPAA and GDPR, right? So one privacy failure can destroy years of research credibility. Moving on to the next part, which is defining the scope. We are discussing three scopes here. The first one is security. Let's take an example of a door. A door comes with a lock, and a lock comes with encryption, passwords, and access control, right? So security here, it is basically the lock on the door, and it is preventing the hackers from stealing our data, right? And then comes the confidentiality, right? Here we have, it is basically the promises. NDAs and ethical rules. Authorized users promise that they won't misuse the data. Okay. And then we'll move on to the privacy. So, what is privacy? Privacy is basically a mask. We call it the mask, right? We have the de identification. We have another thing that is happening here, which is anonymization techniques. Even if data is stolen, no one is going to know who it belongs to. So, security protects the data and privacy protects people. Moving on to the next one, which is the attack surface. Why names are not enough? Deleting names is never enough. We have attack linkage here. Okay, it's called the linkage attack. Attackers combines data sets. The attackers we have, they combine the data sets. They take the small details that reveal the identities. Okay, we have an example here. I'll explain the example later, which is basically combining the hospital data with the voter list and health data with the social media. We have the myths of anonymity. This is a very powerful story, to be honest. We're talking about a person called Lentania. Uh, she basically proved that anonymous health records were vulnerables. The study explains that it was done in 1990s, right? It explains that they bought voter data for $20 and they linked it with the hospital records. So she basically identified these things that the governor of that specific state, they were using only zip codes, genders, and date of birth. The key shock we have here is that 87% of Americans are unique using just three values. And these three values are like zip code, gender, and the date of birth because two people or three or five could have same names, right? So name is not basically a very strong thing to store the data with. Then we have taxonomy of identifiers. We have three types here. The first one is direct identifiers. The direct identifiers are basically the names, the CNIC, the photos, and all that, right? And then comes the quasi identifiers, which are age, the zip codes, the gender, etc. And there comes the sensitive attributes, which are like the disease that person is having or whatever the salary he's earning, things like that. So quasi identifiers are harmless alone and dangerous together if we talk about the danger, right? And we're moving on to the traditional techniques. They're basically rules, transformation, and anonymity. That's what we're going to talk about. First of all, we have basic transformations. The first one is suppression. So in suppression, we were doing what? We're deleting the value entirely, right? So if there is a rare disease, we remove it from the data set, like, or we remove the extreme age from the data set, right? Then comes the generalization. In generalization, we make data less specific. For example, age, we give age a range from 20 to 30, and if there is a zip code, we're giving it like 100, right? So, or if there could be another example that we're taking an exact location and we're telling the city instead of the street. Okay, we're generalizing it, we're not going specific. Okay, so like, we can conclude it in a way that we are pixelating a face in a photo, right? The next part is pretty important, and that is k anonymity. If we talk about this, um, let me give you a simple definition of it. It is basically that you should be hidden among at least k1 others, right? We talk about an analogy here, that is red cape analogy. So if one person is wearing a red cape, that is identifiable. But if there is a group of five people and all of them are wearing red capes, you won't be able to identify one person, and that is safer. Okay, so how its mechanism works? It basically works like you generalize the QIS, you create groups of size k, like k is basically taken as n here. Okay, what outcome we're gonna have here? An attacker can find a group, not a person. So it'll be hard for him to go to that one specific person. All right. And then we go on to that why K anonymity fails. This anonymity couldn't survive, so it failed. The first problem we had with it is homogeneity attack. So if everyone in your group of five has the same sensitive diagnosis, like everyone is HIV positive, so without identifying which record is yours, that is a homogeneity in this, like everyone has having the same disease. All right, so the identity is hidden, but the diagnosis is exposed here. If we talk about the background knowledge attack, okay, the attacker knows extra information about you. If the attacker knows you are in the dataset and knows you don't have flu because they saw you yesterday, they can eliminate records and reduce decay artificially. Okay, that the lesson we're learning here is that hiding in a crowd works only if the crowd is diverse. And then we have the solution. As a solution, we're talking about advanced models like eye diversity. This model gives eye diversity and T closiveness. Eye diversity is basically forces variety in sensitive attributes, all right? And then T closedness comes. T closedness is basically group distribution, which means overall population. So these fix K anonymity weaknesses, but not entirely. We move on to differential privacy, DP. There's the gold standard we have. The core idea of this whole thing is that your presence should not change the result, right? Let's talk about how it works. So we add mathematical noise, we protect the individuals, we preserve the patterns. We talk about an analogy here, which is coin flipping. So everyone flips a coin, and head says a yes, and tail says the truth. If I explain this, I'll be saying that noise gives plausible deniability, truth emerges in aggregates. Okay, so our differential privacy protects people, not just records. All right, we are moving to the utility versus privacy trade-off. If we look at the bars given on this slide, we can see that the raw data have high utility but zero privacy. The K anonymity data has balanced utility and medium risk. If we talk about the DP, we are having lower utility and high privacy. And if we talk about the aggregated stats, that is low utility and max privacy. There is no perfect solution to anything, right? So these mindsets, like more privacy, less accuracy, more utility, higher risks, it is all about that ethic is about choosing wisely, not maximizing blindly, right? This is where I'll be concluding the topic. I hope it is clear to you all. I'll be concluding this one line, and I'll be saying that once the trust is lost, no algorithm can bring it back. Thank you. See you in the next one.